Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Real Podcast. I'm your host, David Moya, and we have co-host Mike Campos here today. And
Good morning.
And we have a special guest. And I think Mike will take over here. He's got a great relationship with Mike, why don't you do Ray a good favor and give him a great intro.
All right, so we got today we have Ray Stendall with Pacific Sotheby's International Realty. Ray is a technical expert when it comes to real estate sales and marketing. He knows the timing to when to list your property, for how much, and he knows the analytics needed to drive the most attention to your properties. And as his lending partner, he gets a lot of attention on his properties because I'm always doing the cross qualifications of all these offers coming in. So it's real neat to have you, Ray. Thanks a lot for coming, and let's get this show started.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and you're too kind in my intro here. I really appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, Ray, what does that mean, right? So he talked about a lot of things there. What does that mean for you? Give me a quick if you could quick summary of what all the different things, amazing things that you do for your properties that Mike mentioned.
Oh, okay, sure, happy to. At the end of the day, I think this is a job about professional selling. It's about taking a house, which is a product, and being able to showcase it in the marketplace in a way that buyers will resonate and can see themselves actually living there and enjoying all the amenities. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure we have the right product or house with the right message, the right price, and present it to the right buyer profile to ultimately lead to a happy transaction.
And you, Ray, you're one of the most thorough guys. We had a pre-production call on Friday, and you were just so thorough in your approach to not just this podcast episode, but just like what you do. It's very impressive. And one of the things that stood out for me was your passion about delivering amazing customer experience. Talk to me about that. What does that mean?
Sure. I'm really passionate about customer experience. I think a few years ago, I actually used to publish a magazine called Customer Engagement Magazine, and we ran it globally for 5 years, interviewing many top-notch people from big companies as well as thought leaders. And I learned a lot in the process interviewing these great people from big companies like Zappos and Barney's New York and so forth. And what I learned is that at the end of the day, we're building long-term relationships with clients. In order to do that and have them come back to us, we have to really think outside the box in terms of how do we meet and exceed expectations throughout the process. And in order to do that, there's a kind of a science behind it. You really look at, for example, touch points. What are all your touch points with a client? And being able to understand, how do you optimize for that? How do you take the voice of a customer and think about that as you operationalize your business? So every sales marketing process goes through, how does that actually benefit the customer? How are we going to take it a step further? And it's a process which is constructed. It's not something that happens haphazardly, if you want to really excel in the marketplace.
So when you're out there talking to your sellers and buyers, how are you using this experience that you have from the past to apply it towards every day? I mean, you and I both, we're in the trenches. We're taking phone calls from buyers agents. We're taking phone calls from buyers, and it's really hard to figure out in the beginning stages who's the right buyer for your listing. What steps are you doing to represent your sellers the best in making sure that you go into escrow with the right buyer, and then ultimately helping that seller move on to their next property?
That's a great question, Mike. So as we think about this, it starts off with really having dialed in market knowledge. So market knowledge starts with being able to price the property correctly. In order to do that, you have to have a good understanding of all the key market stats. I actually pay for data from various sources so that I can triangulate and figure out how long I think it will really take for the market to absorb the inventory and price the property correctly. Once you do that with the right kind of video and pictures and everything we do to draw attention to the property, we're going to start to get those incoming calls. And at that point specifically, Mike, I'm a big believer of qualifying people. So it's not just about qualifying the work that I do with you, which is so important when we actually have an offer to go to escrow. But I even like to ask people, what's the buyer looking for? What's important to you? And kind of figure out if this is indeed the right property. And I do this, and I think sellers appreciate it because we want to minimize the looky-loos. We want to minimize the people who are not a good fit for the property. Maybe they must have a swimming pool. There's no room to build one. Then maybe this isn't the right property for them. So a little bit of pre-qualifying on the front end, a lot of follow-up on the back end, and then the whole lending follow-up and pre-qual to make sure that we can actually do a deal together.
Yeah, when we cross-qualify the buyers, I don't just look at the loan application, which sometimes helps us paint the picture, but actually having a conversation with the buyer to find out what the real story is. It's kind of important. Taking an application online, receiving an application online from a buyer, and then trying to decipher what their application meant sometimes takes us down the wrong path. But when I actually have a real conversation by phone with that buyer to identify what their real goal is, then from there we can create the right story through the application. I'm seeing quite often many online or internet-based mortgage companies having loan denials in the third or fourth week of escrow because simply the lender was going down the wrong path on a loan that couldn't be delivered in the first place. So, when we cross-qualify buyers that are submitting offers on your listing, to have a real conversation with them by phone is extremely helpful throughout that process and to making sure that we're delivering, the right product to them, but also delivering for you and yourselves as well.
And it really puts us at ease, Mike, having this relationship. And I mention with every listing seller that I work with that as part of our process, we go through the cross-qualification process. We make sure that the buyer and the lender have the capacity to purchase. And I sometimes am able to get through and talk to an underwriter and working together with you and making sure that everything, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, allows the seller to be more confident that it's going to go through.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. And Ray, you have this, you exude professionalism. I feel like it goes without saying when someone has a conversation with you, I think it's an immediate sensation. You get that feeling. We talked about professional salesmanship. What does that mean, right? And it's something I also agree with you. I feel like there's a lot of room to grow in that area. Even for myself. I mean, for any professional and any business owner. But being a professional salesman, what does that mean for you in your business?
Well, thanks for asking, and thanks for the compliment. When it comes to professional salesmanship, I think it's a process of looking at, taking a look at your process, your systems, your skill set, your schedule. It's about being able to look at this as an end-to-end process to get from A to B. So everything from lead generation through to pre-qualifying, through to presentation, through to follow-up has to be systematized. It has to be done in a way that it's repeatable, because that's the only way that you can grow and improve. If you have something to do, you need to be able to track your numbers throughout your process. So looking at your conversion rates, and some of that, some folks may not like to do, but how can you figure out how to improve yourself if you don't track? So that's why I think it's so important.
Well, that's when a real estate salesperson, runs their operation like a business versus, being a sales guy that's just chasing one deal after the next. Having those systems in place allows for you to sleep at night as a real estate agent. It allows you to sleep at night knowing that your files are at certain milestones, and when you wake up in the morning, you know what the next steps are going to be, and everybody else does too.
Let me give you an example. So one of the things I do is I have a project management board that I use that helps me keep track of every single deal. And if you're my seller client and you say, hey, Ray, can you tell me about the showing feedback this week? I can actually tell you about the showing, every single person who has seen the home, what they've said about the home, because I track it and I call people afterwards. Every single thing that has to happen in a listing, there's checklists and multiple checklists for different phases of the deal. So as I improve and get better as a professional, I change my templates so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah, that's the word right there.
Yeah, and Ray, in terms of we mentioned technology. You're a very high tech guy, marketing and all that, digital marketing specifically. How are you using that to find buyers and to make the transactions happen?
Okay, great question. So I think it first starts off with making sure that we've done everything possible to showcase the property in the best possible light. So from professional pictures, professional video, drone footage. I also like to get out in front of the camera, explain the value proposition. I want to take control of sharing that sales message from the seller who knows their property best all the way through to the buyer. So I actually even interview the seller with my own phone just as a means to collect information and then transform that into a vision and something that buyers can really see themselves enjoying. And then as part of that, all the digital assets that get created, all the marketing stems from having that right message and then looking at targeting specific buyer profiles for who's likely to live in that home. So for example, if I'm selling some property in Fallbrook, I know that a lot of buyers come up from Los Angeles and Orange County, and they're trying to escape a busy lifestyle and maybe move to something a little bit more relaxed with some acreage, a bigger home, and a little bit of peace and quiet. So that's a profile I can target.
That's real neat.
Yeah, and Ray, I feel like we got really deep in the conversation, which is great because I feel like those are real like catchphrases. People are hungry for really, really good knowledge and wisdom, which you're giving us today. But let's give people a little bit more information about you, just a little backstory. Tell us about yourself, and just really paint the picture why you are who you are today, because you have this huge 20 plus years of experience that I won't get into. I'll let you get into, and a lot of other things that we're going to dive into. But just if you could give us a little rundown about who you are.
Yeah, just a quick snapshot here. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a salesperson and I gained certain experience throughout my career. I mean, originally I'm from Canada. So for anybody watching from Canada, hello. Went to school there, got a business degree, moved into consulting in Seattle when I was fresh out of school, moved into high-tech sales, marketing, product marketing. And so basically a lot of what I bring to real estate comes from what I've learned working with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Verizon, Toyota, Microsoft, IBM. And there's a certain process about how you go out and understand their needs, put together proposals, negotiate deals, provide service, because it's super competitive. So you really have to be on your A game. So I learned a lot from that. And then I've always been into personal development. And I was fortunate to be exposed to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill when I was 12 years old in 1987 with my dad. He learned that, he got that book when he immigrated from Eastern Europe to Canada. And he shared it with me, and it's been a big pillar in terms of my development moving forward and always looking for ways to improve.
Now, you read that book at 12, right? So, like, if you're watching or listening, you have not read that book, I encourage you to go pick up that book. It was a huge, part of my eye-opening. Or my whole just eyes opening up to a whole new life of what could be, what do I have in my disposal, how I can have this personal growth. So for you to pick it up at 12, pretty impressive.
Can I share something kind of interesting that you might like? So in 1987, I'm reading this book with my dad in Mississauga, Ontario, and if you fast forward it to 2012, I was on stage in Kuala Lumpur speaking for the Napoleon Hill Foundation with Deepak Chopra. I mean, who would have imagined, you're reading a book when you're 12 years old, where that could take you if you really embody ideas and are passionate about it and you bring a lot of purpose and desire to what you're trying to accomplish. And so I'm also accredited with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, which is something I do in my copious free time.
Nice. And then obviously you have, like, we talked about your degrees, you have an undergrad and a master's. Let's talk about that, how that has influenced, your success.
Well, when I went to university, I went to the Ivy School of Business outside of London, Ontario, which follows a case study model. So kind of similar to the Harvard Business School, but in the North in Canada. And that helped me kind of move forward in terms of orienting myself to real business situations and bringing together a problem-solving mindset. And then I got my Master's of Science in Computers and Information Systems in night school while I was working for a high-tech company back in the early 2000s. And then the whole idea was, let's take what I've learned through this work process and apply it to real estate, which has always been a passion of mine.
So what part of real estate has made you passionate? I mean, we all love living in our homes, but what made it passionate enough for you to want to get into real estate as a sales professional?
Well, that's an interesting question. Maybe I have an answer which is maybe a little different than most, but aside from loving real estate in general terms, to me, if we look at what is real estate really, it's about private property. It's about the American dream. And why is private property so important? It's one of the basic pillars of what we enjoy in a free society. So I have certain philosophical beliefs of being a self-reliant individual and being able to take care of my family and being able to do such things. And private property is a big part of that. And real estate is a big part of the American dream. And I'm a believer in the American dream. So if I can help people achieve this, whether they're a new home buyer or they're an investor or they're somebody who is selling and they're looking to upgrade or downgrade, then I want to be part of that story with them.
Now, for someone who has had that experience, right, that 20 plus year of experience that has helped to create a successful system for you, what would you say that success, you attribute that success to?
Well, I think a lot of success comes from a lot of elbow grease, right? It's a lot of hard work. I mean, it's easy to see some of my fancy videos and so forth, but there's a lot that goes behind it. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I would say work ethic is a big part of what I think leads to success. And I'm nowhere near where I think I have the capacity to get to. And I think that's the situation for most of us. There's so much raw potential inside of ours, and all of us can get to that next level. And there's a next level that I have. And in terms of success for me, it's really being able to continue to help sellers be able to sell their homes, help buyers buy homes. 2020, my goal is to help 50 sellers and 50 buyers and be able to help people move forward. And I think work ethic is a big part of what I strive to uphold.
Are you considering starting a team or building a team of real estate professionals?
Down the road, I think that's definitely part of my work process, but at the end of the day, as a leader, I need to make sure that I can demonstrate what I expect others to do. So if I expect people to make phone calls every day and talk to people they don't know and ultimately take a lot of rejection, then I have to demonstrate that I can do that. And so that I can.
Weren't you a part of a coaching company? Aren't you certified or something? What was that we talked about?
Yeah, I am part of a coaching company. I pay for a coaching subscription to the Mike Ferry coaching company. I recently joined them earlier this year in January. And I did that because I realized how important environment is and the people you surround yourself. You say, what is it? Don't they say that you're basically the average of the 5 closest people that you're around?
Right.
So I said to myself, well, who do I know who's doing over 100 deals a year, 200 deals a year personally? And the answer was not that many, right? It's pretty hard to find somebody who's doing that level of volume. So I joined this coaching company and I went out to some events and invested in myself. It's not cheap, but it's something that I'm willing to do. And now I have a pretty good network of people across the country who are giving amazing service to clients and doing a lot of volume.
Now, Ray, you talked about your passion behind real estate, and you talked about how you loved the wonderful business that it is because you're able to deliver tangible value for your clients, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. What does that mean? How does that influence your day to day?
Well, thank you. It's a good question. Well, as most of us, we've gone through life and trying different types of business models. And I've tried everything from, information products to consulting services to a variety of different things. And what I really love about real estate, it's tangible. It has intrinsic value. People need to live in homes. They have certain lifestyles they want to live in. They need either bigger homes or smaller homes, function of their needs. So the fact that it has that intrinsic value means that there is going to be a clear marketplace for it. And in the process of everything that I've learned, I've found that if I can do a good job of helping people get what they want, then ultimately, as I think Zig Ziglar once said, then I can get what I want.
Right,
so that's why I really love real estate as a product.
What is it? It's something like you help enough people get what they want, then you'll get what you want, or what your goals are, or
Can't hear
whatever.
you.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the pillars of real estate is and relationship development is to
I
give
can't hear
a service, provide a solution, and then ask for the business, and then ultimately you'll start to get business. It's one of the things that I started my real estate career with in the lending side, by providing that type of information. So it's a real neat angle in developing and maintaining relationships. So instead of us just being a cheeseball salesman just trying to get deals and close deals, we're developing relationships and building a referral network by giving a service, giving information, providing solutions, and then ultimately getting the business afterwards.
Now,
Hey,
Mike,
Ray, you back?
Mike, you have.
Okay.
Did we get Ray back? Not yet.
All right.
Maybe not.
Okay.
Mike, you've been in the industry for quite some time, and we're interviewing a lot of these top producers. What have you seen kind of like repeat in terms of traits in somebody who's successful, right?
I think it really comes down to some of the traits of the successful real estate agents that I work with is that a couple things. One, they run their real estate sales job as a business. They have systems and they have structure. And sometimes that means that they hire associates to help them in certain parts of that process for each one of their clients, whether they're buyers and sellers. And the other thing that I think real estate agents, successful real estate agents are really good at is that they're people persons. They're outbound. They're the ones calling buyers and sellers to see how they're doing. They're the ones providing information before they get a transaction, before the buyer commits to them, before the seller commits to them. The agents are providing just countless amounts of information to these potential clients and developing relationships and trust that route. It's real neat to see that, and these agents are in the market, they're in the know, they know their neighbors, they personally or by telephone. It's definitely not a passive business. If somebody wanted to generate income, it's definitely not passive.
Yeah, and I know that Ray had talked about earlier, and I think we have Ray back on, but Ray, can you hear us?
Yep, I got you now.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about traits of high producers, top producers, and you talked about how if you want to be a top producer, you're working on your business, every day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's routines, right? Let's just talk about the basics. Schedule, right? Do you time block when you're going to do your prospecting? When are you going to do your lead follow-up? When are you going to call the people in your database? When are you going to take appointments? So scheduling is important. Every Sunday, I have a routine for looking at the markets, looking at who I'm going to be role playing. I role play with people every day, and I do objection handling every day. Mm-hmm. And why do I do that? Because I need to make sure that I am able to communicate with people in a way that makes sense, and I'm clear and concise. So all of these things are important.
Ray, you have this great background. You got into real estate. What's one thing that you were not expecting to take on as a realtor when it comes to working your business?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question here. So it's repetitive boredom. Repetitive boredom. Can I expand what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you can appreciate that there's a lot of rejection, and you have to train your mindset literally to embrace rejection. I mean, sales is about getting rejected and being successful a relatively small period of the time. So, I mean, when I track my numbers, it's about 2% of the people I talk to leads to an appointment. That means if I talk to 100 people, 98 people are going to reject me. So right. Step one is you got to have that mindset that, rejection is okay, and it's a part of the process. And then part two, I was just losing my train of thought here for a second, but it's being able to handle rejection is really a key thing. And
you talked about repetitive boredom. Maybe that will
boredom. Yeah. So repetitive boredom is that there's certain parts of this job which are not exciting, but you have to train yourself that it's work that needs to be done. You need to do it. So get on with it and do it at the highest ability possible, and be consistent and dedicated to your process, and realize if I decide I don't feel like prospecting today, there's a seller out there who needs my services and I won't be able to help them because I decided to be lazy about it. So being able to pick yourself up and make the phone calls, do the things that need to happen so that you can help the people you say you want to help.
Now, as a new agent comes into the business, they're probably going to face similar challenges. What's some advice you would give someone coming into the business, or even maybe someone who's been around that you can give them a fresher breath there in terms of how they can approach their business?
I would say seriously, you got to treat this business like a business that it is, and really ask yourself, how would a much bigger organization be organizing resources, their time, their people, their skills, to get the highest level of efficiency out of running your business. And more specifically, I would say you need to embrace rejection. You need to embrace repetitive boredom. Like, take, for example, someone like Michael Jordan. At one point in time, throwing balls through the hoop would be somewhat boring to him, but he kept doing it over and over and over again until he became Michael Jordan, right? So in real estate, especially if you're somebody who's new, doing things that you might be bored to do, you have to accept as part of the process to achieve a certain level of greatness that you may aspire to, whatever that level is. And the other big part of it, I was going to say, there's 3 ways to get business in this world. You can either wait for it, you can go and find it, or you can buy it. Buy it through advertising, wait for it where people somehow fall in your lap, or go and find the people you want to transact with. And I would encourage everyone watching this to be out there looking for the business. Look for it. Don't wait. Don't buy it. Number 1, you'll be much more profitable. Number 2, it's way more predictable. And number 3, you'll have some satisfaction that you gave it your all each day.
So when you're getting ready for your morning and you're getting ready to start your day, what do you say to yourself? Do you have any sayings or anything that pumps you up to pick up the phone and get going?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do. As I said, you got to protect your mindset at all costs. I have a method I roll through. I have 13 documents that I read every morning. And one is my purpose statement. The second statement is my perfect day. What does my perfect day look like? What is my ideal me? Who am I trying to be as a person? What characteristics or attributes do I want? I have about 150 affirmations. I kind of pick through a couple that I like. I review my business plan. So specifically, if we're going to talk about affirmations, I might say something to myself that I'm in complete control of my mindset today. I'm going to generate 100 deals this year, or I have the capacity to help sellers where they may be, however they may be. So I do create statements that I feel help motivate me to step up and go forward and do my role play and get on the phone.
Ah, geez, I love that.
I told you, David, this guy is in the zone here, didn't I?
well chiseled, well-oiled machine.
Well, that's a good point. This whole idea of being a well-oiled machine, right? At the end of the day, a lot of what we do is somewhat robotic. And when I take a look and I talk to these folks that are doing 100, 150, 200 deals a year, which is in many cases so far out of the normal in this industry, these folks have such work ethic, such discipline, such consistency. They're able to stand up at their desk making phone calls 5 hours in a row practically. And that's how they do the volume that they do. And it's a lot. I'm not there yet. I'll be honest with you. I'm working to build up that kind of consistency and muscle.
Right. It's stamina, right? To keep going that long, making those calls.
And making the calls. Here's another big clue I would give to a new agent. Versatility. I kid you not, I have lost a ton of money in commissions because of my lack of versatility. Versatility is so important. And so I would encourage people to study the DISC profile. There's drivers, there's expressives, there's amiables and analyticals. Figure out who you're talking to based on the model and learn to communicate to them the way they want to be communicated to. So you might just need to slow down a little bit and talk a little bit quieter so that you don't overwhelm somebody. And sometimes you got to talk a little bit quicker. So keep in mind.
Yeah, the only constant in this business is change. Everything is constantly and always evolving, whether it's the personality type, the industry standards, the lending standards. And obviously the properties are always so different. So we're always uncovering something new. And that's what's really stimulating about real estate and lending is we're always rolling over that rock and finding something new and investigating it and identifying the best solution for that client or the best solution for that property. And the personality types is a whole other world, learning how other people's personalities work with each other, and it's very stimulating. And that's why I've been in this business for so long. And it's really neat to see a master of their craft here with Ray, learning and growing and evolving as the clients and the properties come his way. Ray, you've been working on this for a number of years. You've been perfecting your craft. In the last 30 days or so, what have you seen the market do as far as economy, consumer demand, seller demand, and so forth?
Oh, sure. It's been a big change, and you're right. Being versatile it has many dimensions, and one of them is being able to be adaptable to market conditions. So with everything going on with this corona pandemic, I've been working pretty diligently to help people get informed and understand what's happening. And what I've noticed is a very interesting trend. In the beginning of this pandemic, many sellers, naturally, understandably so, were taking inventory off market. And buyers were a little bit concerned and pending activity went down. As things continue to move forward, we've seen pendings grow week after week. More and more people are getting into escrow, which is so important. And that's starting to loosen up a little bit on the inventory level where sellers are willing to put their properties back on market. So what I see us doing is we're moving back towards the trend line of where we were in 2017, which, as people will remember, it was very much of a seller's market back then. And right now we have the least amount of inventory comparative to the last 4 years for this time of year. So good news is things are getting better in the markets, and there is more trust building in the markets is what I'm seeing in the last 30 days.
I understand. So you're on the phone in the mornings, potentially prospecting for sellers and buyers, following up with your clients, getting the buyers pre-qualified, and educating yourself about the market as well to make sure that your conversations with those prospects and clients are accurate and you're advising everybody correctly. How are you doing all this? I mean, what are you doing? Are you time blocking? Are you listening to videos or reading? What type of articles are you reading? What news sources are you going to pull all this data together so you can share it appropriately with your client base?
Sure. So number one is I do subscribe to various paid services that feed me information on what's happening in a particular zip code, what's happening in a particular city at a county level. I do that. I have data across the country, but I really do focus mostly on Orange County, San Diego County, and Riverside County that I have that at my fingertips. And that's how I'm able to know that pending activity is up and able to take a look at the absorption rates and the days on market. All of these things are critical because when a seller asks you, hey, Ray, how's the market? I mean, that's such a leading question, right? It's like, well, it depends. Are you a buyer or are you a seller? Are you a landlord? Do you want to rent your property? Are we talking about your property in the coastal area? Is it in Poway? Different markets, different situations. So to answer your question, Mike, I do time blocking. I pay for data because that's not my expertise. I'm going to pay somebody who's going to do a lot of that analysis for me. And then I also go and I mine the MLS so I can look at week by week traffic. And I do that every Monday. So I know what happened in the previous week compared to the one before that. And then I take all of this and I make it as easy as understand for people because they don't want to get overwhelmed with all this data. And sometimes I've done that before, which is not good. And then allow the seller or the buyer to make a decision if it's right for them.
Now, one of the things I love watching, and it's one of the reasons I love having this show and having multiple, participants, right? Mike, Ray. I love to see the dynamic, right? Because you guys work together. You've spoken before. You have this history. You guys are interacting constantly. Ray, how crucial is having someone like Mike on your team, on your side, and then what does that look like every week for you guys?
We basically talk every week, a few times a week. So it all depends on what I have coming through that I need help with from Michael. So step number one is when I take a new listing and we start to get some activity. We sold the property in Chula Vista, had 12 offers on it. Now I got to sift through, figure out which ones do we want to go and figure out that are serious that we're going to counter, and then figure out which one we believe can actually come through and work with us. So I sat with Mike, we went through the handful that were most important, not the whole, all of them, and focusing on which ones we thought had the best shot at making the deal work, and made them go through process. So for example, I counter everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of offer you give me, unless it's cash with proof of funds, you're getting a counter and you're going to speak to Mike. And it's right there in the MLS. It's very clear. And I sell that as a benefit to my client. Most good agents and lenders understand that this is just a professional thing that we do, and they cooperate. And if they don't cooperate, then I'll move on to somebody else, because I'm not going to explain. I had to do this before and explain to a seller why the deal fell apart, and I don't want to do it anymore. It's just not, it's not good for me. It's not good for them. So Mike really is instrumental in that process. Another thing that Mike helped me with actually is we did a deal. It was actually one of our first deals we did together. I thought we had somebody qualified. We got through to like close to the end run. I'm in the car driving home. Mike calls me, Ray, are you sitting down? And then I said, yeah. I'm taking my wife to a doctor appointment. We're having a baby at that time. And then he tells bad news that things weren't working out. But we then turned that thing around, and Mike was able to get them a loan based on a bank statement program. And they closed at the same price. And that's the client that I have in escrow as of Saturday with another property. And they went through the same cross-qualification process again. So that's how I work with Mike as a listing agent. And on the buying side, I woke him up on the weekend, not this weekend, but last weekend. I said, Mike, we have a new home buyer. I need to get this person qualified. And he just jumped through hoops, and we got an offer to the table. We didn't win that, got outbid, but the point is we did everything we could do, and it was still a strong offer. And Mike helped with that as well.
Yeah, it's a part of the business model, David. You know, we provide a service, we create solutions, we back our agents up, we protect our agents, we protect our agents' clients, and then ultimately, eventually down the road, we're getting loans. So it's a win-win for everybody, but it starts by providing an excellent service that the agent, that Ray can depend on.
Sure.
He can call me. Ray knows not to call me after 9 o'clock at night, but he can call me anytime. I'll take his call. If I miss his call, I always call him back, and we figure out what he needs to have done so he can move forward with his clients. And I jump on it as fast as we can, and we prioritize it the best we can to make sure that we don't miss out on any opportunities to serve our clients. Yeah.
Now, we were talking offline a little bit about an example where you had a deal that was denied. It was that was last week or something like that, and then you went pre-qualified, cross-qualified, or something like that. Is that the one that Ray just gave the example?
Well, this happens often. So the one I was talking to offline was a little different, but you know, I provided a cross-qualification on behalf of the seller to, in essence, proofread the other lender's work, and it passed my cross-qualification because I know that transaction could have been funded. And the buyer chose to use his lender, which is fine. And for whatever reason, the lender could not perform on the loan and was saying, go here, go there, figure it out. But since I already did the cross qualification, I already had all the buyer's paperwork. I knew what the buyer's profile was. And the reason why the other lender couldn't do the transaction, I didn't have that reason. I couldn't see why that was a problem. So we were able to immediately take over the loan, transfer a lot of data to my office, and we were able to approve the buyer within a couple of business days, since the file was already built, and then ultimately close the loan and quote unquote save the deal because the other lender couldn't perform. So we're a backup loan, and for those other lenders, and with the transaction that Ray and I had where it fell apart at the last hour, we like to have backup solutions. So when I worked at a major bank for many, many years, we had one product, one solution at one interest rate, and that was it. You know, now that I work at San Diego Funding, which has been around for over 30 years, we have solutions that are inside our office that are competitive to the big banks' loan programs. And then we have those outside the office solutions to create any solution for any problem that may arise, whether it's a 50-acre parcel with an Airbnb on it with 2 manufactured homes and all kinds of other funk, or straight up traditional purchase on a high-rise building. And we have our plan A loan, and if for whatever reason we can't put that together, we immediately go to plan B and get the client house keys. That's our ultimate goal, just to help them close escrow as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
And just to add a little color to that example that Michael was using, just a little bit of the human side. The couple is an elderly couple. I was working with them diligently to sell their Fallbrook home. Managed to find the buyer, so now we're representing both sides of the transaction. We were moving forward. They had a lot of belongings. They needed to leave. We had contracts. The buyer expected to take possession. And when all of this happened and they couldn't move into their OC, the deal to go to their Orange County property so that he could be closer to work was falling apart. It was really a big problem. And then Michael saved the day and got him a loan.
I remember that one. That one was a nail biter. Yes, I remember that one. We pulled it off. We absolutely did. I think they got denied by a major bank, and we did that. I remember that one, Ray. Yeah, we one thing trait about successful real estate agents, including Ray, is tenacity. Simply tenacity. Just keep on going forward, flipping over those stones, no stone unturned to find the solution. And that's what I really like about being a partner with Ray, is that we both mutually have that tenacity to go find that solution and get it done. I remember that transaction, and that gentleman, he was older. I don't think he had the heart for it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think he had the heart strength to continue on fighting an uphill battle, but we were able to create a really good solution for him. Made a couple adjustments to his payroll plan, and we got the loan funded.
Awesome. I love hearing those success stories. So just so I'm understanding this, not only are you helping Ray with buyers, you're helping him with his listings, making sure the offers are solid. And is that correct? Like you're working both sides.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Cool. I mean, yeah. It's as a the lending world is changing super fast, just like the real estate world is. And Ray is an expert in his field. He is always consistently and constantly educating himself, and he is deep in the trenches in the real estate sales and marketing side. And me, I'm running in parallel, just as deep in the trenches as he is, but in the lending side. And 2 or 3 times a week, we're getting updates. Loan programs are not right now, but right when COVID started, I mean, loan programs were changing on the daily. So it's my job to be as 1,000% informed about everything when it comes to lending. And so as Ray is working on putting his transactions together, I'm going in there as a representative of the seller, just to make sure that those loans are really loans that can be funded, that the buyer is actually pre-approved. And that's a service that I provide to Ray, and it works out great to protect his sellers. And so that's a part of the relationship that Ray is presenting to his sellers when he's doing his listing presentations, is that he has that lending partner always available.
I love that. Hey, it's great. You guys have this awesome partnership, and you're just like on his side. You're his, you guys are working in partnership to create, successful transactions. Ray, you talked about how you market homes. Obviously, we talked about offline a little bit about video. Let's talk about video now online here. How are you using video?
Well, I think video has a number of different use cases. The first, of course, is to showcase property, but then there is the other use case, which is to communicate one-on-one with an individual, as well as to communicate one-to-many if you're going to inform and educate a group of people. So I use video in a number of different ways. Maybe we should just start with the obvious one, which is for properties. Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so when it comes to using video for properties, I mean, at the end of the day, we have to accept as salespeople, we are not just selling a structure. We're not just selling a roof and a living room and a dining room. We're selling a place that someone is going to call their home, is going to take pride in where they live. They're going to have a certain vision of their lifestyle. And we need to do a good job of making sure we can match what they want with what we got. So what better way to do that than with video? So when it comes to video, I like to always be able to be in charge of the sales message and not leave it to be discovered in the marketplace by reading an MLS listing, as an example. Reading something on Zillow, right? So in video, we want to make sure that we articulate the key features and benefits, how that translates to lifestyle, be able to show video snippets inside the home, if appropriate, use drone footage to give some sense of privacy and security that people want. And then ultimately, video helps us find the person. It helps us qualify the person. It helps us build an emotional attachment, so it keeps the deal together. So that's one way in which I use video.
Nice. And we have, let's see if we can pull that up. So you have a very specific way about doing videos for properties, right?
Yes.
You found that to be successful for you. So let's talk about that. What's the process for that?
Well, from the process point of view, I first go out and understand what it is that the features and benefits are of the home. So what I'll typically do is I'll go and shoot my own little video on my phone and go through the whole home and articulate all the features and benefits that I can understand. Sometimes I interview a seller, get their input. I then have it all transcribed, and then I pull out the key points. I then cultivate a script. From the script, we basically go through and then execute against it. We're going to determine what scenes we're going to have in the video. We're going to do the open, how we're going to do the close. What are some key things we want to have video snippets of? Perhaps it's a thermidor oven, for example. And I'm going to say I want to pan over the thermidor as an example. And ultimately, I based on coming up with the script, I share that with the seller. I make sure that they're happy with it. I see if they have any input. And then it's just all about execution.
Nice. So I'm going to play it, and they're going to continue asking you some questions, but I'm going to play it, and if you guys hear it on your end, I'm going to actually mute it so we can continue with the conversation. So let me know if you hear anything on your end.
For the ultimate in luxury, privacy, and tranquility, then this Fabric home might be for you. Let's take a look at the grounds from up above.
On my end here.
For the rest of this music.
Are you looking for the ultimate in luxury, privacy, and tranquility? Then this Fabric home might be for you. Let's take a look at the grounds from up above.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear that initial intro because, you know, you and I were planning this property video, and that was one of the things that you were really interested in, is like, I want to be able to talk into a drone and then have the drone fly away. So let's talk about the importance of that for you.
Well, in this particular case, I wanted to set a hook, which is, are you looking for X? Then this might be the home for you. So it's one of the things that I have used before, and it's worked out pretty well. Nice.
Okay, cool. And I know, Mike, you do some video too, and obviously you've worked with cameras and editing and whatnot. What's kind of your take on video and how that's influencing, you know, agents right now and how they're utilizing video?
I think that video is key to communicate to consumers in multiple ways all at one time. It's the most efficient thing a real estate agent can do. It gives them a visual aid. It allows to share to the consumer how professional you are, how personable you are, and obviously selling the product. So it really covers a lot of bases all at one time. And by consistently sharing a video, whether it's through social media or through direct email campaigns, customers can then connect with you. And so I've gotten phone calls, whether it's through Instagram or Facebook, or LinkedIn too, and they'll say, Mike, I watched all your videos. I think you're awesome. Let's do a transaction. Help me with this. Help me with that. You know, it's like, you know, people like that stuff, and customers that I don't hear from all the time, eventually if I were to touch base with them, say, hey, you know, haven't talked to you in a long time, just want to follow up on our previous transaction. Like, oh, Mike, how are you? I love your videos. So, I mean, you know, people watch them and they connect with you as a person and a professional, and then ultimately they're connecting with the product you're selling too. So I think it works really, really well.
And Ray, you talked about transferring enthusiasm. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's good.
I remember Ray mentioned something that stuck with me, which was transferring. You're transferring enthusiasm. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So if you play the video I can talk a little bit over. It's about showing enthusiasm for this property. Somebody has no idea what it's about. That's what it's all about. So for example, this is the 6th property, level 4-car garage, immaculate property, great workout pool. I want people to understand and feel that so that they can come out and see themselves, right? And that's what I think a big job we need to do as a professional. It's not about vacant ghost show.
Welcome back. My name is Ray Stendall.
Yeah, I mean,
I fix Sotheby's International
I have
Realty.
home buyers that share their property video after they bought the house. I mean, they download the video and they just, wherever they may be, whether out their bar or they're with their family or their cousin they haven't seen 10 years, this is a house we bought. And then they share the property video from the listing agent. And it might be years old, but they still do it anyways. Those videos create a lot. They create a lot.
Sellers will also take the video and share it with all their friends because they're proud of the way their home is being represented. Mm-hmm. So that's another use case.
Totally.
You got property type videos that you're doing, Ray. Yeah. How else are you using video to connect with your client base?
Well, outside of property videos, I think there's a role for educational based videos. So sometimes what I do is I'll create a special report on a subject, and then I'll do a video intro for that report. And I might potentially even package some videos with a report. So it's a way to educate the marketplace. It's a way to build trust. At the end of the day, you do business with people that you know, that you like, and that you trust. I'm sure many people have heard of that expression. I believe in that. So I think there's a role for educational-based videos, blog-based videos. There's a role for one-on-one video where instead of giving a written typed email, you just shoot a BombBomb video, shoot it over to somebody. Zoom is another form of video for collaboration. I use Zoom sometimes to make real-time changes to a counter. We're all on the same page. I'm in zip forms. I'm making my changes in real time. A lot of buyers and sellers like that because there's expediency. It's fast. We're not waiting forever for things to happen. So we just got to use the medium in different ways to better communicate is ultimately the goal.
Nice. Where do you see video going right now?
It's going to only continue to increase. I mean, if folks go back and look at what John Chambers said at Cisco years ago, he said that 95 to 98% of all internet traffic was going to be video. And if we're not there yet, we're certainly accelerating to that direction. Just look at how we use video for entertainment these days. It's all about Netflix, it's Hulu, it's all about streaming services, right? And as we move forward and as 5G technology kicks into gear, where speeds will be even faster, you're going to be able to communicate with people on video in such a different way than we're doing it today. It's going to be embedded in your lifestyle, like day to day embedded.
Now, I love seeing. I love working with Mike because Mike has obviously the enthusiasm too, but he does video. He's doing it. You check his social media. He's doing it, and it's great to have him come on and be on the show as well and co-host because really he's adding a ton of value that a lot of lenders don't have no idea what they're talking about. So, and obviously Ray, you're doing a ton of great stuff with your business, creating systems or implementing systems, getting your mindset right. What gets you inspired every day? And I do want to say, happy belated Father's Day to both of you guys.
Thank you.
Not sure. Right, I said that to start the show, but yeah. And the reason I'm saying that's going to segue into your answer, I believe. But what gets you inspired every day? I mean, this is a hustle, right?
Yeah, it is. I can go first. I have a little 2-year-old. His name's Alex.
Nice.
And I have my wife, my 2-year-old, and I want a lot of great things for him. I want him to enjoy a lot of the benefits I got from the parents that were instrumental in my development, and that's a big part of my motivation is my family. And I have a vision board up there with my baby on the wall. I have my wife over here. So right. I wish I would have figured this out a little earlier, but I have found in talking to a lot of successful people, family tends to be one of the biggest primary drivers of motivation.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and that's why I think a lot of successful people tend to have, families and children and, people around them that they care about. So that's a big part of my motivation.
That's awesome, Ray. The same goes for me. I mean, I have 2 young kids and one older man, and they're absolute inspiration. And my wife is so much smarter than me and better looking than me that she really makes me want to step my game up almost every day to just keep moving forward. But I'll tell you something that nobody really knows, and I've never ever said this before. I got beat up a lot, like when I was younger. And somewhere down the line, when I was 18, 19 years old, I said to myself, never again. You know what I mean? Like, just it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be that. I'm never going to lose. So whether it's self-protection or physically getting beat up, never letting that happen again. But it also comes down to my career and my life and my wife and my family. I don't want my family to lose. I don't want my career to lose. I don't want to lose. And so I like to help people win. I like to win with them. I like to help people succeed. I consider winning and succeeding the same when it comes to real estate. So I just want that all around me. I want people to succeed, and I want to be a part of that. And when they are succeeding, I succeed too.
Right.
And so I want to help more people succeed on a daily basis, wherever I can. And that's what really makes me wake up and kind of move forward and go after it, get beat up for those 99 phone calls to get one transaction. I'm okay, because I know I'm going to get a win here sooner than later. And so I always want to end the day in a win.
It's powerful, Mike.
Michael's saying that I want to just springboard on here. He's talking about something that Wallace Wattles wrote in The Science of Getting Rich many decades ago. And that is leaving people with the impression of increase. Is that he's helping people win. He's letting people walk away from him with a feeling that they are a better person. They can achieve more, do more, have more. And that impression of increase is so important in this business. It's so important in any business, and it's really to help people get to where they want to go, and being able to leave them with that positive vibe is so important.
So Ray and David, where do you guys see yourself in the next 5 years?
You ready to go?
Yeah, go for it.
For you, Ray.
All right. Well, for me, it's in the next 5 years, I'm going to be building a team. I'm going to be doing 100 transactions a year. The team is going to consist of 2 assistants and one buyer's agent, maybe a second buyer's agent who's going to focus exclusively on showings and representing buyers. So it's going to be a small team, and everybody's going to be prospecting for business. Everybody's going to be following through the approach and the systems that I have to help as many people that want our help, key phrase, that want our help to get to where they want to go.
Beautiful. And how can Mike and I help you with that?
Well, I'm gonna continue to keep Mike busy with opportunity, and
I love that.
And continue to we'll be working together and being able to leverage video in innovative ways to help people understand what's possible and what they can get from themselves.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying, but I will say it because it's important. We're here for you, Ray. I think we want to show you that. Obviously, supporting you however we can. I'm a big believer in building people up myself, and Mike is a big believer in that as well. So I put your address, your website, elegantcahomes.com, up on the screen. And is that the best place for somebody to go visit you, find out more information about your listings, and connect with you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. Elegant CA Homes will redirect you to Elegant California Homes.
Okay.
And that's a great place to go to get information if you're interested in buying a property, if you're interested in selling, if you're interested in getting any kind of market updates. You can reach out to me through the website, info@elegantcahomes.com. Just feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to talk with you about your needs.
All right, so I got it running down there on the crawler. It's elegantcahomes.com. If you guys are watching or listening, be sure to check them out. Ray, thank you so much for being on the show, sharing with us so much knowledge. Our team has been adding some highlights to the comment section in this thread. So, if you want to rewatch any of those specific points, feel free to click on that, guys. Mike, as always, you are a solid co-host. Thanks for always chiming in and leading the pack as well. Mike, anything you want to say?
No, it's just a real great chat. And thanks a lot, David, for putting all this together. We need this. And Ray, thank you very much for coming. It's always great to chat with you.
Thank you both for having me on. It's been a great conversation, and I look forward to doing it again with you sometime soon.
Yeah, and I definitely going to connect with you. I saw your YouTube channels have so many great videos that range from different things. I was like, man, this guy's crushing it. He's got interviews, he's got educational clips and whatnot. So definitely going to do that. And special thanks to San Diego Funding, of course, for sponsoring today's episode. And Ray, thanks again. And both of you guys, happy belated Father's Day, and enjoy the rest of the week. Stay strong, stay committed, as I know you guys both will. And look forward to doing another one with you guys soon.